was just getting ready to stream and saw that there was a viewer waiting, so I figured I'd get started a few seconds early. Hope everyone's doing well this evening. Hello, Mr. Anonymous. Welcome back. How's it going, Chris? Hello, how's it going, Enzo? You're talking about this little lever here to keep this fourth valve down. It's really just for safekeeping. If this was free and let's say I set it down on the ground and then, this gets bumped really hard, the fourth valve is probably not ruined forever, but you're probably going to have to take it into a repair shop. And I've seen it even happen with people being careful that just occasionally something happens because this is so unprotected. You look at these valves and it's pretty hard for something to happen to these because, they're protected most sides. But there's just some damage that can really easily happen. So I usually leave my euphonium on the wall with that valve like that and the wall right here, which is kind of, to me, pretty much the safest without putting away in like a hard case or something. But yeah, I need to empty some water out of here. Thank you, Mr. Anonymous. It's a fun etude to play. It's always interesting playing it from the Selected Studies versus the Tuba Blazevich book because they have different markings, different indications of what you should do musically. So it's like some of those sometimes creep in from the other book because this book basically doesn't really have anything. And sometimes I kind of come up with new things. just keep doing some more playing out of the Voxman. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that book. I forgot about that part. I definitely have to go slower without practicing that. How come we don't see euphoniums and trombones in C very often? I know they exist. They're just very, very uncommon. I think specifically with trombones, it just doesn't really make sense to have to kind of relearn and place those slide positions different places, because even though it would be similar, they would be a little bit different. And I think that muscle memory is just kind of not really worth the hassle. Muscle memory is very different from this, switching up this versus precise placement of the slides. So that's kind of one reason. Ultimately, there's not. I don't have a total answer for you. With euphoniums either. It's just kind of the way that it's kind of evolved, and the euphonium has such a history of brass band and military band sort of things, where traditionally speaking, we want an instrument pitched in either B flat or E flat. If you look at most band instruments, that's kind of their normal keys. And for a long period of time, that was kind of how it was. You look at the saxophone family; they're all B flat and E flat. And like you look at a brass band, it's all B flat and E flat instruments. So that's a little bit of maybe why it just kind of is the way that it is. I mean, you can make a brass instrument in any key, but ultimately people have to buy it for you to put it in production. So I think that's maybe part of it. It's just what people will buy and what they want. You've been streaming a lot more lately. Like it. Thank you. I'm still trying to figure out a kind of perfect time to do it somewhat regularly. I'm thinking about doing it more than once a week. Just trying to, I think my channel is interesting because it's not just one instrument. So I'm not sure if I maybe want to go a route of, here's my tuba stream this one day, or here's my trombones, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, or something like that. I don't know if that's the way to go about it. And also there are people from all around the world. So ideally I want it to be where most people can see it. But that's never going to be possible where everyone can see it, not live anyway. So I'm still trying to figure some of that out. I'm sure most of my viewers are in North America, probably most in the same time zone that I'm in. Let's do a little of this one. Change my mind. I enjoy your content. Thank you. It's professional and educational. If there's a video you have explaining something brass, I can't explain to someone, I always send them to you. Awesome. I mean, that's kind of what I hope this channel can be there for. I've got a lot of ideas for upcoming videos. I'm trying to figure out what the right ones to do. Because I think I can do a better job making the explanation ones, a little bit more exciting maybe. I'm thinking about trying to do some more things with graphics and things like that come on the screen. So I might even redo some of the old ones, just the kind of all the talking head videos that I did. Those were initially for my brass methods course that I was teaching, towards the beginning of the pandemic, when it was just like, oh, we're online now. And it's like, you need to make some videos. And I was like, oh, okay. And there are multiple people teaching the course, so we kind of all split up the work. So I just kind of did the topics that I was kind of assigned. So, and I had, they had deadlines, so they had to get done when they had to get done. So yeah, I'd like to do some more of those sorts of things. Because I think there's a lot of misinformation, not just on YouTube, but on the internet in general. And not saying that I can't ever be wrong, but ideally it's nice to go to a place that you can trust. I mean, ultimately it's the viewer's choice if the the person speaking is credible. But yeah, something where you can kind of find out things you didn't know maybe. And I'm also working on a website that's going to be separate. I've got some kind of plans for that. So we'll see how it all goes. But I'm glad that you're watching the content and enjoying it. I'm definitely trying to keep it both professional and educational. Those are two of my big goals. But yeah, I'm glad that you've enjoyed it. Are Yamaha's tubas good? You guys love to ask questions about different brands and things, which has made it really kind of hard because I want to keep these live streams up, but I'm also like not afraid of like incriminating myself necessarily, but afraid of saying something against a brand and then it's just being like, Zach hates this brand, he's totally against them. They make terrible things or something like that. So, it's a little tricky. But overall, Yamaha does make some really good tubas. I would say that Yamaha's like top tubas are pretty much amazing, and I would love to own and play them. How's it going, Tuba Man? But they're expensive, is one reason why I don't. Yamaha makes the world's most expensive tuba, to my knowledge, at about $40,000. Their 6-quarter C tuba, which isn't even really on their website. I want to say the model is like YCB826, I believe is what the number is, but most people call it a Yama York because it's a York design instrument made by Yamaha. Combine the two, Yama York. So like that's a great tuba. Would I spend $40,000 on it? I mean, maybe if I had limitless money, but $40,000 to me is a lot of money for a tuba when there are some really, really good tubas that are maybe a quarter or even talking half that price. You can get really, really good tubas that are not $40,000. So, and then make a really nice F that I've always wanted and liked, the, what is it? The YFB 821, it's like the smaller F, but it's got a bigger bell, and it's like the Roger Bobo model. That's a great F tuba that I would love to have. It plays really well. I like their other F tubas too, and their other C tuba as well. Their like 822 F and C. Those are good tubas. But yeah, I mean, they definitely make some good products. I don't own any, and that's not, again, it's not because I hate them or anything. But I just haven't happened to get one of their instruments. Just hasn't happened that way. And I think the thing with Yamaha too that's really great is that they have a really good level of quality throughout the company. They're just really particular about that sort of stuff. So, especially with trombone slides, I find that their student model trombone slides have really good slides. Whereas maybe some other companies, it's like, it's a student model, we won't worry about it. Where I feel like Yamaha, it's like, well, if we're going to make a slide, we should make it pretty good. So yeah, they're good instruments. Long story short, worked on recording prep for pre-screen today. That's awesome. For some grad school stuff, I assume. Yeah, it's good. Most of my grad school auditions didn't have pre-screening. The only one was Colburn was the one that had the pre-screening that I did. Do you prefer piston or rotary valves for tuba? Also, what do you think of the compensating tubas? Ooh, good questions. As far as rotary and piston, I'm really I'm not against either one. I like both of them. I think people always assume it's like, oh, you're a rotor guy because I have two tubas that are rotors and no other tubas. So that's a fair kind of assumption. But it's almost like these are the tubas that found me in my life. It's not necessarily like I said I will only play rotor tubas. And probably my next tuba will be a piston instrument. So there are pros and cons to each. I kind of think about with rotors that rotors almost never will let you down, but if they do let you down, it's catastrophic. And I have been let down with rotors. Like on my F tuba, one of the clock springs, which is an old style thing, one of the springs broke, and it was during a recording session. I didn't have my tuba for the next 3 or 4 days, and it was when I was an undergrad. I was recording for Falcone, and being a 20-year-old or whatever I was at that point in time, I wasn't organized, and I waited till the last minute. Then my tuba broke, and I had to put it in the repair shop for a week or so, and so I ended up not recording. So rotor issues can be somewhat catastrophic, but for me, that's like the one I've ever had. Then you said also, what do you think about compensating tubas? I think there are some that play really well. I think it's definitely more practical on the euphonium. For me, I don't really want to play a tuba that is a 3+1 compensating, just because intonation can be a challenge. And it's the same challenge that euphonium players face. On tuba, if I'm playing a note with my first valve, I can move it, or even, especially on both of my tubas, they're kind of wrapped the same. I can at any point in time pull, basically all the valves except for the second valve on my F tuba, even on my C tuba, because I have a kicker for it. So pretty much all the valves are really, or the slides are really easy to get to. If I'm holding the instrument, I've got my fifth valve here. You can pull that. First valve's right there. Second valve, fourth valve is behind here. You can kind of see that. Third valve is also behind here. So I can reach all of them. Whereas when you're dealing with a 3+1, where the valves are upright, let's say I'm playing the euphonium, or imagine this being a much bigger instrument. It's a, big compensating B flat tuba or something. Let's say I want to pull my first valve slide, while I'm playing. That's not really feasible. So you have to do all the manipulation there, which, it can work. It's just, I think particularly on tuba, I would really miss pulling slides. But that's not to say that the compensating system is out, because there are tubas that have 4 valves that are front action that are compensating. And it's the same system, it just happens to kind of physically look different. And those are appealing to me, because then we can still pull the slides just like, kind of a normal front action tuba. So I would personally really like one of those, like either a Besson 983, or Eastman has a similar model E flat tuba to that. It's kind of like the Pat Sheridan model instrument. I think he's had multiple companies make him one. I think Jupiter has one for him now, but I think he was one who originally developed it with Besson. Let's see. Hey, for tuba A23, what are some tips to get clear articulation on those fast notes? The ultimate answer for that is go slowly. I have so many students where they play that etude, and it's just, they get through it at a specific tempo, but getting through it is not necessarily the same as getting better at it. So if you're playing that etude, if you're doing that and you're going really really fast, and it's just kind of getting there. I wasn't gonna play it, and then I was like, I don't have that from memory. But anyway, you're not necessarily getting better, and really going slow. Bum 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 bum. I would practice it as slow as you need to get clear articulation. And what I think most people end up doing is just, you can play those notes at a good tempo, but about optimizing them. I think I'm still answering your question. I think you just don't like my answer. I think two man gets it. Slow makes you pro. I think that's really the answer. It's not playing it slowly is not always about getting it up to tempo, but it's about making your up to tempo playing better. So I think that's mostly what I would recommend. Sorry, I'll turn this off. Is really going slowly to work on those articulations. Those articulations aren't going to get much better by playing it fast. And the finishing touches, that sort of idea, that's the sort of thing that I do the day before a recital, the day of a recital maybe, or the day of a competition, day before a competition, something like that. If I were taking an all-state A2 or all-state audition, the day before I wouldn't even be playing it up to tempo. And I know I can tell you to do that, and you probably won't. Most people wouldn't take that advice, but that's how I practice. It's mostly a lot of really, really slow practice, because if you can really play it perfectly slowly, it's pretty reasonable to move that tempo up. But that's just not how most people practice. So I hope that answers your question. I at least think it does. But yeah, try it out. Try playing slowly for like 3 days without playing it faster, just only playing it slowly. And then just try the tempo you were going before and see if that helps. Thank you so much. I love your content, and we'll practice it slower more. Yeah, no problem. If there's one bit of advice I could give, it's play things slower. I didn't listen when my teachers told me to play things slower when I was in high school and even early college. I'd have teachers who told me, you got to play this slower, and I just was kind of like, whatever, old man. I don't need to do that. I can play it fast. And the moment that I stopped thinking that way and started really practicing slowly, I got so much better. And the proof was in competition results and ensemble placements, all those sorts of things that we kind of look at as metrics, and things in the professional world, all of that sort of stuff. It started going a lot better for me when I finally started listening to that advice that every teacher gives you. Everyone says play it slowly, but how much of us say, oh yeah, I did that, and it's like that's not really true. Those are those white lies that you tell that really aren't good for you. Every young college tuba player loses their ego after that first placement audition. Yeah, that it definitely happens that way. You think, oh, I made all state in high school, and then you realize you're up against grad students who are in their 30s and play professionally and things. It's a little different, but yeah. So for a lot of stuff for me, it's like two-man. We were talking about the Capriccio last night. It's like almost all my recommendations for that were to go slowly. I mean, we talked about some other things, but going slowly to me is just like that's how we get better. Happened to you in middle school. I assume you're talking about the ego stuff. Yeah, ego can help you when you're playing, but not as you try to get better. That's kind of how I think about it is, when I'm playing, I have thoughts like I'm the best tuba player in the world. Like I have that sort of mindset of, if I go for this high note, it's going to work. Like, of course it's going to work. And I have a really kind of positive attitude. But I don't exist that way in the real world. I'm always trying to get better and, trying to learn from my mistakes and things like that, and learn from people around me. See, and that's what I'm talking about with the rotors versus piston valves. Even a well-oiled valve sometimes can stick like that. Whereas a rotor valve, for the most part, it's probably not going to do that. But yeah, I should have oiled these today. I usually oil these valves, on this instrument pretty much every day. I have not today, but just especially with it being a Chinese-made instrument, I really baby these valves and try to make sure that they're always oiled and always lubricated. And also part of it was that I bought it new, so we're probably past the break-in period at this point, but even still. And also another thing to keep in mind with doing instrument maintenance, if you're doing it once there's a problem, like I'm doing right now, it's too late, or it's later than it should be. Maybe not that it's too late, but basically means that I should have done this at the start of today. Yeah, for anyone who's curious, I'm using Monster Oil Faster for this instrument. They don't pay me to say that, but I like their products. And they seem to be a really nice company. When I got the first bottle of valve oil from them for this instrument, I got I think it was whatever the medium one is, original, I think is what it's called. And, I just, of course, you just start with the original, right? And it didn't work super well. It was a little too thick, which isn't their fault. It's just different instruments have different tolerances. And they have a buyback guarantee, or maybe not buyback guarantee, but they'll send you a different viscosity, whatever you want to call that, some sort of guarantee. And so I sent them an email and I was like, hey, I bought this on Amazon. It kind of seemed to make my valves on, and I told them the specific instrument that I played. I was like, it's making my valves a little bit sluggish. And they're like, yep, for that instrument, we definitely recommend the Faster because they have really tight tolerances. And if you put a thicker oil, it's going to be kind of slow. So they sent me another bottle free of charge, which they do for everyone, not just because it's, not because of my, tens of YouTube followers. So they sent another bottle free of charge. It's great. Came, and I've been using the Faster ever since. This is probably my 4th or 5th bottle. Hey, do I give tier 3 sub? How do I give a tier 3 sub? I don't know if that means. Is that a YouTube thing? I'm not sure. What was the toughest excerpt for you to master? Mine's definitely the softer excerpts. People say the big loud excerpts win. The softer excerpts win, in my opinion. I don't know if those are kind of separate questions. What wins you the job, maybe, and what is the toughest. But for me, I mean, the way you phrase your question implies that I've mastered all of them. I don't know that that's completely true, but probably something like some of the low fast stuff and like Mahler 5, excerpts like that. There are lots of Mahler excerpts that are kind of in that spectrum. especially even from high school, I was always someone who wanted to play really high on the tuba. Was first chair, and I always chose the higher parts. I never chose the lower parts, and probably created some level of a weakness in the low range, which I think, more or less I've kind of ironed out at this point in my life. But there are definitely some people who just kind of destroy the low range on the tuba and can do whatever they want. And I think I can do a good job, but there's a difference between doing a good job and being able to do whatever you want in the low range. So that's kind of how I feel with my low range overall, is that I can do my job, I can do it pretty well, but something like some low Mahler fast stuff or things like that, I think I'm pretty good at them at this point, and I don't think it loses the job or anything like that. But I still feel like I have work to do. Maybe I'll play one of those. No, it's not. It's not your fault. I just, I think it's just important, even, and I know that you're a college student and looking to do a master's degree, but I think it's also important, even with the high school and even middle school students that are watching these sorts of things, that I don't like to ever imply that I'm just the greatest, I'm perfect, I have absolutely no weaknesses, look at me, watch me go. My hope is to give really good performances, good teaching, and all that sort of stuff on this channel. But again, I think anyone who acts like they know it all and they've got everything figured out, like I've mastered every single orchestral piece that's ever written for tuba, I just don't want to put out that sort of energy, I guess. But I'll do a little bit of that Mahler 5 excerpt that I was talking about. Even Ride is in that category too. I suppose Ride probably took me the longest, because that was one that you're expected to be able to play, and I kind of felt for a long time I wasn't very good at it. I've played it enough now, and I've really worked on my low range, especially on my C2, which is most instruments, but that low F sharp is not a great note. And that's one for me that really took a while to feel confident in, and confidence is almost half the battle sometimes. If you start that at low F sharp and you don't think it's going to work out, it's probably not going to work out. So that's probably the one that I had to work on the most, just as far as that sort of thing, because it's such a staple. But by the time I started working on things like Mahler 5, I'd kind of not fixed my low range, but I was much better at it, so to speak. One of your favorites, Ride, is your favorite. It's on one of your challenges as well. Yeah, it took, there's so many problems with that excerpt. There's the rhythm and all that sort of stuff, and it's, in a weird key, being B major. But yeah, for me, it took a long time, and figuring out what I wanted to do, either pulling slides or using 5-2-3 for low F sharp, things like that. There's just, for me, there were some things that took me a while to figure out, and I could get through it before that. But I would say, especially when I, first started taking professional auditions, I can think of some really specific examples where in the first round, I felt like, yeah, my playing is probably going to get through to the next round, and then Ride would come up, and then I'd play it, and it's like, yeah, I get it. I get why I'm not going to go to the next round. So, earlier on, that was kind of the one that I felt like I had to just, get over the hump with, really. Whereas, some of the other ones don't quite come up as often. But yeah, I worked through a lot of things with that. And I've gotten through some auditions with that being on the list. So, not that I'll never have to work on Ride again or anything. I'm still working on it. But hello, Colin. The breathing is kind of tough for me. My lessons teachers have breathing every 2 phrases. Yeah, I mean, you just kind of got to get it where you can. It's wherever air can be gotten, you kind of have to get it. But yeah, let me play that Mahler 5 excerpt that I was talking about. It's excerpt 6 on here. No, it's excerpt 5. Now the pressure's on. It's like, this is kind of hard for me. And so it'll either sound bad or it'll sound good. And it's like, that doesn't sound like it was hard for you. So either way, I kind of lose. Of course, I had to miss that last note. But yeah, that's one for me that I'm always working on clarity. You know, if you watch me practice that excerpt, it's bum 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 bum. You know, very 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 slowly. Let's see here. Should I buy my high school tuba? Emiliano, were you one of the people who's talking about their high school tuba being a 186? Maybe that's right. Remind me again what kind of tuba it is, and I assume you mean like should you go out and buy the same model? Is it the same chat as is this the same chat as last time? Yeah, there's a lot of familiar people in here. I'm sure that there are some lurkers who are new, but I recognize most of the names. Merch, interesting question. Maybe at some point. To me, I feel like no one would buy it, and I would just have like wasted my time. But maybe that's me being a pessimist. Most YouTube channels and things do merch as a money making thing, which obviously there's nothing. I don't have any ethical problems with that. But to me, it seems like a little bit too early. Maybe you'd buy it. But also those sorts of things are very expensive, the lower quantities that you have of them. If you only buy, let's say 10, you might be talking about a lot more for a shirt than you'd like. Like, let's say it's like a t-shirt and, maybe a lot of places are selling it for $20, just like a cool t-shirt with the design with a logo or something like that. Like maybe like the banner sort of thing that you see as the, I thought about that sort of banner thing where it says Low Brass U and the U is the logo, with like, I think they're called Henleys. Is that the right name for those shirts? The kind of like, I don't know. I think I associate them with baseballs. I don't know if that, like baseball shirts, like where it's like white on the, chest and then the sleeves are a color. So I do like white and blue, something like that. So I've thought about that. And I've also thought about like, for me doing these videos, doing like sort of like athletic coach polos. But those shirts might be, if I'm buying them in such small quantity, it has to be $30 for a shirt for me to make any money on it or something like that. And it's like you say you'll buy, and then if it's $30 for a shirt, that's not really good value. So that's just something that I'm definitely thinking about. But I think I would want to do it. It's all tricky. That it's very easy to do something like that theoretically makes you money, that ends up losing you money because let's say I order the wrong sizes and I've got these extra smalls and there are not as many tuba players who happen to be extra small, and then I have these extra smalls forever that I paid for. So I don't think I quite know enough as far as those sorts of things are concerned, but I appreciate the support that you guys wanted and are interested in it. Definitely, I don't think I have to tell you to stay subscribed and things, but yeah, that might be something at some point. I've thought about it for shirts for me. I thought, with this gray black background, I thought about a white polo would be nice with the blue logo on it, but I was afraid that I'd just get oil on it and ruin it. And I think the blue might be harder to match, or I don't know. I've got some thoughts. What if we got low brass shirts that say Low Brass U? What's the price going around for used? When anyone know? We're talking about the Miraphone 186. Yeah, the Miraphone 186 probably has the biggest range of hall tubas, 2K to 10K. As ridiculous as that sounds, I'm inclined to agree with that. Maybe not quite 10K, but like at least 2 to 8. Because there are some that are so old that mechanically they're not sound. And then there's some that are, have all the bells and whistles and extra things on them. So, I think that if you can get a good deal on one, like my kind of sweet spot, for a 186 would be like a good conditioned, maybe older one that sounds really good, but mechanically still sound for like $3 to $4 grand, if that's possible. That's kind of what would make me happy with that purchase. But that, those are hard to find sometimes. Imagine if I asked my teacher to sell me the one I'm using in school. Yeah, that probably wouldn't work. Legally, that definitely shouldn't work, but stranger things have happened. But yeah, I mean, the 186 is a good model. It's a great instrument for, going into college with and things like that. I would love it if I had a 186. And I thought about buying a 186 when I got my C tuba. This is the only C tuba I've ever owned. And a lot of people told me it was too big for a ninth grader, and maybe it was. But I got a good deal on it, so it was kind of hard to pass up. But I was looking at 186s at the time, and I don't think it would have been a bad thing if I got one. I might still end up with a bigger tuba eventually, but the 186 it's a good tuba. It's a really good all-around tuba. Since I have two tubas, it makes more sense to me to have a bigger C tuba than a kind of 4/4 horn, because I have an F tuba to do a lot of things with. I bought my Neptune for my teacher, and it was a great deal. I mean, obviously this was a while ago. This is when I was in high school, but it was $3,500, and he allowed for payment in installments. So, gave him a $500 check and walked away with the tuba. Came back with more $500 checks, but he was a really kind teacher, and was really, really, really helpful for me. And he'd sell me all kinds of stuff for just like almost dirt cheap, just because he kind of wanted me to have it. I bought so many gold-plated mouthpieces from him for like $30. I bought a stack of Methods books this high once from him for $20 because he already had all of them. He bought them this is like the earlier days of eBay, and he bought a collection on eBay, and then just was like, well, I have all these, so give me $20, you can have them. It's like, sure. So I, have this huge stack of Method books that are all super old, like my Blazevich and Co project from like the 70s. It's kind of hilarious. Let's see. You actually have a 186 left-handed model. Awesome. Do you still have that? I mean, I assume that's probably not something that's really easy to sell. But I know you have the other two tubas that you were talking about, the 210 and the 2260. Am I the only one that doesn't know anything tuba in the chat? That's okay. One, you may not be a tuba player. Maybe you are. It's either way. It's fine. To me, this is a learning place. Hopefully, you learn something. That's kind of what we're here for. Hello, nice to see you, Luis. And then Leo, yeah. What was that? Yeah, too. I can't remember what that yeah was for. I'm sure I agree. Want to ask you a question for euphonium region? Sure. Ask away. But yeah, I mean, going back to the 186, that's probably about selling the left-handed one. Yeah, I assume there's not a huge market for it. But yeah, that's still a good tuba to have. I mean, obviously we think about the Tuono being a better instrument, but there might be some situations that you find that 186 to be helpful with. I would love to have a smaller C tuba in addition to my large C tuba. This is a nice, cool chat. Yeah, we had to do some removal the other day, but things are pretty mellow. Remember in euphonium, not. Oh, you're sorry. It's hard for me to remember. I'm also reading kind of at a distance, so sometimes it's hard for me to read the names. But yeah, it's okay to not know anything about the tuba, especially if you're a euphonium player. Um, can I ask you what the name of the screwdriver valve is called? The hexagon. Can I ask you what the name of the screwdriver on the valve is called? I'm not really sure what you're talking about. Are you just talking about like these screws here? I'm not really sure. Hey, how are you doing? I'm doing great. Hope you're doing well. You need to play it short, right? You're meaning like play short notes? That's the A flat one is the second one, right? Or what do you, sorry, euphonium region. Yeah, I need more, sorry. Or for TMEA, I assume, or ATSSB. Playing tuba right now. Awesome, Brady. Have I ever been a marching band judge? No. I've judged like all region and stuff before, but no, I've never been a marching band judge. I don't know that I'm quite qualified for that. Allen wrench. I see. I understand the question now. Yeah, Colin answered it for you, Emiliano. Yeah, the hexagon is a hex, thing. So it's. Let me see if I have it on my desk. Yeah, I do. So you can get things like this. This is just like a multiple hex key thing. Mine, it's funny enough, I don't have hexes on any of my tubas. They happen to be normal flathead. But you can get these sorts of things where they pull, you can switch blade them out sort of thing and use these. So I've got a couple of these that are helpful. Allstate. I've never judged Allstate, but I've judged all region. I'm doing well, Brady. How are you doing? You play Sousa and life's great in the Dallas cold. Yeah, it's pretty cold here, which is I'm very happy with the cold, especially with my setup in my office. It can get hot in here, because when I'm streaming, I have three computers on technically in the room because my router is a computer, and then video lights. It gets hot, so I like to. Ideally, it's nice when it's cool because my room is generating heat, so it kind of takes care of it for me. And I don't want to just come in here with, just like a t-shirt on or something. So let's see. You're getting a new euphonium next year. Awesome. What are you getting? Do you know? Yeah, someone also asked what one, especially in the rain. Yeah, it's been rainy too. I want snow this year. Yeah, maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. You're in Texas yourself. Yeah, a lot of people from Texas. You play really good. Thank you. Texas equals the best state. It's the second largest. That counts, right? I love when you play the trombone. Yeah, I love playing the trombone. It's a lot of fun. I try to keep it pretty balanced on here. That's kind of, to me, that's the point of low brass U, is it being, not specific to one of them, but you just subscribed. Awesome. Thank you. Just been lurking for now, but yeah, I appreciate the subscription. You sound amazing. Thank you. Corpus Christi isn't really cold. Yeah, it's cold in like North Texas right now, but I'm sure the rest of Texas isn't quite as cold. Everyone subscribe and click the bell or you will drop your instrument. Yeah, I can't guarantee that'll happen, but if you want to be really sure, probably the best thing you can do is probably to subscribe and click that bell so you get notified. You're getting a 4-valve one? Cool. Are you getting a 4-valve where the 4 on top? Or are you getting a compensating horn, which I should specify that just because the valve is over here doesn't make it compensating. It often is, but it's not exactly a guarantee. I would say Texas is a little more competitive, but some of the best players have come from states like Delaware. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, a lot of good players come from Texas because there are so many that are in band. To me, it really stems from football. In Texas, so football is super important for high schools, and having a big marching band is a big thing. So, you might have a ton of tubas, because of that. So you're going to have, just rule of numbers, you're going to have some good players because of that. But yeah, I'm not from Texas, and not that there aren't good players in Texas, but there are definitely good players outside of Texas as well. Aledo, yeah, Aledo is not far from here. It's like 59. Is that in Corpus Christi? Yeah, 59 is a little warmer than it is here. Last I checked, it was like 39 today. 4 on top. Yeah. Do you know what model you're getting? But go subscribe, guys. Yeah, I definitely would appreciate the subscription. Allen High School has 25 tubas and like 80 trombones. Yeah, so I mean, just you think about that with Allen High School. It's like, if you have 25 tubas, what are the odds that there's a good one there? The odds are pretty good. Whereas you could go to another high school, especially outside of the state, and you could have 3 tubas. I remember at my high school, like the year before I got there, they were switching people to tuba, and the prerequisite was, can you read bass clef? So that's just kind of how it went. And when I was, the entire time in high school, there were a couple players a year older than me, but there were no juniors and seniors when I first got there. So, there was, not a whole lot of older players that stuck around. Yeah, Allen High School is obviously like the biggest example. Not every school in Texas is that big, but just in general, there are a lot of schools, a lot of people in Texas, a lot of big metroplexes. So that kind of adds all to, to having some good players around, but it's not exclusive. That Texas is not the only place with good players. You're from McAllen and high school, grade 11. Awesome. I have Seneca 5 video. Mind taking a listen sometime. I'm going to use it for some pre-screening or grad school stuff. Yeah, I might be able to get to it. No guarantees, but I'll try to check it out. Can you be or can I be your moderator? I don't think I quite need one yet. I feel like having a moderator when I have 13 people on here is a little bit unnecessary, but it might be necessary at some point. It was necessary the other day, I guess, when I had to get rid of someone. But as for right now, I'd like to have, kind of full control. But my high school has 7 tubas, including yourself. Yeah, and even that's more than my high school ever had. You're not from Corpus, but it's the closest place to me that people would recognize. What happened? Something happened? Hopefully everyone is still on this stream. If it's not working, please let me know. But yeah, I've been to Corpus. I was in Corpus last year for a gig. But yeah, anytime. Yeah, maybe I'm definitely not morally opposed to that. But I definitely need to. I think right now I don't need a moderator. But okay, everything's good. I probably shouldn't freak out to one comment saying something, but God bless you. I have worked. I have to go have a wonderful week. Yeah, I will try to have a good, wonderful week. What happened to the person? Are you talking about the person I had to kick out? Is that what you're asking about? There's just someone, making a fuss in here and saying unkind things. And, obviously if you feed the trolls, it doesn't help them. But, kind of the whole point of these live streams is like to read questions and things. Then when I get halfway through reading it and realize there's a bunch of hate speech in there, that's not exactly my ideal thing. And it doesn't really hurt my feelings. You have to do a little bit more than that, than call me a name on the internet. But I don't really, what bothered me was that it was about, sometimes about other people who are in the chat. And I definitely I guess one of my fears is that someone would not want to come to my live stream because there's someone who is, calling them names or something. That's definitely not what I want. I want this to be a pretty positive place. Your third chair in your wind ensemble. It's good. And chair placements aren't everything. You could be first chair and not have a music career, or you could be third chair the entire time but have a great career, or last chair, or whatever. So first. Good night. Good night. Hope you have a good rest of your night. Yeah, I think with obviously it's really easy to be kind of obsessed with chair placement, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much. It's a really easy thing to say, but it's really about you getting better and you being the best you can be, which I know is a very trite thing to say, but I really do believe it. That's what I try to work on, is just getting better. And if I'm getting better and then I go take an audition and I win, that's great. If I go to an audition and I felt I played really well, but I didn't win, that's good too. Obviously, I'd like the job, but if someone wins the job, do I oh, they're better than me, I'm terrible? I don't try to think that way. I kind of just try to be the best version of myself, because that's kind of all I can do. And especially you get to a point with placement and things that at some point it's not just who is the best. That's probably most of what it is now. But there comes a time where it's, did you play the way the panel wanted you to play, the people who are judging. And even in All-State, especially in Texas with how many people are doing it, there's so many just variables. You could play one etude that's forte, and you could play it at a volume, and one judge could say that's too loud, it sounded terrible, get out of here. And then another one would say, that it wasn't, it says forte, why didn't you play loud enough? So, those sorts of things can happen all the time. Your middle school, the chairs were everything. Then I got to high school and I just began focusing on myself. Yeah, and that's really the way we all should be doing it. I know that that's not always as easy as I make it seem to be, and I'm not perfect with that either. But where's two man's here? What's my ideal practice room? Boomy, dry, or in the middle? If I could have a concert hall to play in 24/7 at my house, I would just, really be happy. That unfortunately is not a reality. But I think a mixture of both is good. I think if you only practice in a big room, you think you sound better than you do. And if you only practice in a small room, you might not develop your sound quite as much. So I like practicing in both. This room, this is I measured it once, maybe 10 by 12 bedroom. That's just an extra bedroom in our house. It's not huge. And I've got it pretty well acoustically treated. You can't see it, but there's some acoustic treatment above. So it's kind of dead in here. But yeah, that's where I practice most of the time. I wish that I could practice in a bigger room more often, but especially right now, it's a little tricky. Let's see here. Can you show us your setup? What do you mean? Like my mouthpieces that I'm using or things like that? Or I'm not exactly sure what you mean by setup. Do you mean like cameras and things like that? I like the video where someone said the legend returns and you said, don't call it, come back. It's like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I try to reply to all the comments unless they're just hate speech or something like that. Or just sometimes when it's just a thumbs up, it's kind of hard to do something other than just say thanks. But, it's fun to come back with witty comments. Do you think that you sound better in a bigger room? I think that maybe I didn't explain that well. I think that pretty much everyone sounds better in a bigger room, and then that may not be completely representative of how you actually sound. To me, it's kind of like makeup. It just makes you look and sound a little bit better. And it's, I think that sometimes you don't notice certain things. You don't notice the maybe rough edge on a cutoff or something like that. Let's see. You have that live stream recorded. Oh, no, your gaming setup. I don't really game. I mean, technically my gaming computer is the same as my streaming computer. I actually don't have any games installed on my computer right now. I'm probably about to do an upgrade, but my computer is no consoles. But my computer is like it's about 5 years old. I built it in 2015, and it was a good computer for that, and it's still decent now. But I'd probably like something a little bit more powerful. But it's got a Intel i7 5820K, which is a 6-core, 12-thread processor, and a GTX 960, which is kind of like a decent but lower tier graphics card 5 years ago that's been replaced more than a few times at this point. If you follow any of that sort of stuff. But that's kind of my computer setup. So you have a problem with tone. What are important steps for good tone? So I always kind of answer the tone question with, the first thing is you have to know what it sounds like to make a good sound in the tuba. And I don't just mean, listening once to a professional and saying that's good. I really, really like to, really dive in and listen a lot. When I was in high school, I was falling asleep listening to recordings. I was just, I had my like iPod video, and I was just like, fall asleep listening to like Gene Pokorny's Excerpt album, or like Oystein Båtsvik's 20th Century Concertos album, things like that. And, I was just doing that all the time. I was always listening. My family were buying me albums. Like I'd go to like Half Price bookstore and buy anything that said tuba or trombone, basically. I got like a London Symphony recording with Patrick Harold playing the Vaughan Williams, and just things like whatever I could get a hold of, because it was harder to get recordings. It wasn't impossible, but the internet wasn't as helpful. And there were some streaming services, but especially with classical music, they weren't really as good. So just listening a lot is kind of the way that I work on tone. And then I think that that's a really really good way to go about it. Let's see. He really does respond to all what makes these streams really awesome. Yeah, I try to. And also Emiliano said long tones to the tone thing. Yeah, that's a good thing to do too. I just find that sometimes you can do long tones blindly, and you just are doing them because someone said to do them, but you can play a long tone without thinking about tone, and you have to play those long tones with just a laser focus, like lights off in the room, just like all you're doing is focusing on that sound. That's the sort of thing that really long tones are about to me. But yeah, I try to respond to all the comments. I think it's, to me, I kind of think about what I would like. There's a, I know this is off topic, but there's like a Childish Gambino song that says that, he makes the music that he would want to listen to as a kid, is essentially the point. And that's kind of what I'm doing, like when I was most of your ages. I mean, I know there's a range, but when I was younger, nothing like this really was happening, especially not with tuba or trombone or euphonium. And there's still not too much of that happening. Obviously, there's some people on Instagram and Twitch and things like that. But, I like being helpful. I like teaching, and I like playing, for people. So PS4, Xbox, and neither. I actually never owned any Xbox, and the last PlayStation I owned was a PS2, the slim one. So I didn't even get in early, and that PS2 definitely doesn't work. The disc doesn't spin, which is kind of hilarious and with the disc not spinning, it just can't load new data. So sometimes what would happen was I'd be mid-song and the audio would cut out. And I was just like mid-run, trying to get a perfect score or whatever. And it's just like, okay, I can still do this with just looking at the notes or the dots coming across the screen. But you have a Core i9, a GTX 2080 Ti. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a better computer than what I have. Costs a leg and an arm. Yeah, I'm still, especially, I'm sure, I don't want to go too off on a tangent, because I'm sure some people really don't care about computer specs or anything like that. But I find it really interesting. I'm still struggling with what computer to go, with in the future, or, what processor. And for my setup, graphics cards doesn't really matter, because most of what I'm doing, I don't need a ton of graphics horsepower, but I really need CPU power, and I really need high clock speed. Lots of cores is helpful, but I really need high clock speed. So I might still go with Intel, but there's so much going on if you're following any of that. 20th Century album is, from what I've seen, is a banger. It totally is. That's the one that like really got me. I don't think I'd ever heard Oystein Båtsvik play before that, and that was I remember, if you guys remember the streaming service Rhapsody, that doesn't really exist anymore. I remember hearing that on Rhapsody, and wasn't even a smartphone, but you could connect it. As long as you connected it every 30 days, you could download stuff from Rhapsody. And I would just have, I think it could fit, I had a 2 GB micro SD card. And actually, I think I have that phone somewhere handy. No, I put it away because it was on my desk for a ridiculous amount of time. But because I found it the other day and I thought it was funny. But, I had like 2 GB, and I just put whatever 2 albums could fit there, and I'd kind of rotate them out. But that 20th Century was probably always there. Pokorny's your idol right now. Love his. Pokorny's great. Especially the Excerpt album. That literally, I probably fell asleep to that Excerpt album probably over 100 times in my life. That was just the, tuba nerd high school me that existed. Let's see. Hello, Mr. Beans. How's it going? Your dream is to have an official Star Wars song made for a tuba ensemble. Yeah, I mean, you could always arrange it. There's lots of good music from Star Wars, especially like some Leia's theme. That would be really cool on tubas, especially like a euphonium player playing that. How can you play high register notes on the tuba? I can do them, but they sound bad. For example, high G. Is there a technique? So that's kind of a hard question to answer on. It's just expanding my middle range, taking my sound from the middle range and going high. Stony book. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it is using your air and figuring. It's kind of like I always talk about it as I give my students a bunch of tools, and then it's their job to go into the practice room and experiment and find out what works for them. So yeah, I mean, I think that's play the waiting game where it's just like, well, AMD's coming out with this, but like, let's see what Intel, does at the beginning of next year. But probably all of them would serve my needs fine and be a significant upgrade. But lessons, yes, I do. If you want to message me on Instagram, that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. Instagram at lowbrassu, same as here. Message, and I try to check it pretty frequently, but it doesn't. But yeah, of the whole Vaughan Williams is great on that album and in school, and because I played the Vaughan Williams in high school, and I got the John Williams after playing the Vaughan Williams. I was playing on my C tuba, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to play the next piece that Oyston had on the album. And then I tried to play the John Williams on C tuba, and it didn't go so well for me at that time. My friend are going to play Fantasia. Awesome. Let's see. You're answering someone else's question. Well, thank you so much for your help. Have a good night. I'll figure out how to tier 3 sub soon. Yeah. Does anyone else know what that means? Maybe I'm just showing my YouTube ignorance, but I do not know what that. But you have trouble playing this going up. Donations. Oh, is that what the tier 3 sub means? Is donations? Oh, I see. It's a Twitch thing. Oh, it's fixed. Okay, well, I'm glad that it's fixed. Yeah, I don't know what would be going on. I haven't really had any internet problems at all any time recently. I mean, obviously those sorts of things can happen. All these internet service providers are dealing with issues of people using the internet so much more since everyone's at home and they're not really prepared for it. But I'm trying to do my part. I'm not using wireless internet. I'm wired in. The audio is kind of bad. Not for you. What's the sub thing for? Stream isn't back for you. Well, hopefully it'll just kind of fix itself. I know it's not always how tech stuff works, but let's see here. So what I was going to play was the second etude and show you how I work on that that section. Yeah, so we get Geek Squad from Best Buy. Yeah, I don't know that Geek Squad is the most helpful, but so one of the spots in here that a lot of people struggle with is this. So that's a big problem for a lot of people. So that's a big problem for a lot of people. It's fixed. Good. We need to flex. Either way, good night. Yeah, thanks for checking the live stream. Is that? I assume that's what you're what you were talking about, going up to that high stuff. So the way that I have a lot of my students work on it is displace some of that. So that's something. So that's something that I encourage a lot of my students to do, is to not play it in the high range, because one of the things with the high range that really is going on that I think a lot of people don't talk about. Everyone wants to know, like, what do I do with my air? What do I do with my lips? And I'm not saying that those things aren't a part of it, but what's also happening as we go higher is to me, it exposes you for not really hearing the pitches very well. So that's how I would go about practicing it. And, you know, you can also do it another way where you play it all high. You know, something like that. Those things can be really helpful. Let's see. One thing that might be help is lip slurs. Yeah, lip slurs are going to help a lot of things. Yeah, that definitely can help. If you're talking about going from high to low, I mean, a lot of it is just doing some exercises that have that. You know, maybe playing scales. You know, so take a G major scale like this and play it 2 octaves or more. You know. You know, things like that can sort of help smooth that sort of stuff. Yeah, hopefully everyone doesn't have to drop down to 144p to watch. That would make me sad. I'm literally using it's an older cinema camera, but it's still a cinema camera. It's only 1080, but it would be sad for it to go from a cinema camera with video lights to 144p. But yeah, those are some of the ways that I would work on this etude. I grab my tuba stand. I should have grabbed it a while ago. Maybe I'll just play this etude. Aren't any questions right now? Let's see. If John Williams would compose a Star Wars two ensemble piece and put it in one of the Star Wars movies, that would be a dream. It's kind of what I meant earlier. Yeah, that would. I mean, that would be awesome. Um, yeah, I feel like John Williams probably wrote his only tuba piece already. Um, but maybe he'll write more. I'm surprised that we got a tuba concerto out of him in general. I'm very thankful that we did. But yeah, thank you, Mr. Anonymous. Oh, I didn't unmute. Uh, Probably heard that somewhat. Um, but but yeah, let's see. Imagine being your neighbor's roommate, living with a professional musician. I wonder what that would be like. Moonlight Sonata Alarm. I don't know what Moonlight Sonata Alarm means, um, but yeah, yeah. I mean, I live with my wife. She mostly tolerates my tuba playing. She also is a trombonist, but oh, I gotcha. Every morning. Um, yeah, I'm not the earliest of risers. I'm not usually practicing prior to 6 a.m. But, I play with their, have the bedroom door shut, my bedroom, this bedroom door shut. Usually that helps. And we live on a relatively busy street, so there's kind of a lot of street noise anyway. We live on a relatively busy street, so there's kind of a lot of street noise anyway. So I don't know what my neighbor thinks. So hopefully he likes it. But he hasn't complained, at least, although he's not praised my Fountains of Rome excerpt. So um, maybe he hates it. But yeah, I'm definitely curious. I kind of asked the question before, but I haven't gotten too many responses. If anybody has any thoughts about a specific time of me going live stream, maybe just like maybe this is the time, maybe a Monday evening, maybe Monday at 7 p.m. That's something I can probably do most weeks. I'd like to have like a specific time that's, at least a specific start time, because I think more people nights are better. Yeah, I assume nights are better, especially for college students, but maybe not all, middle school and high school students. And I realize that there's no perfect time I was thinking about Friday, like early evenings, like 5 p.m. Central Time, but that might not be ideal for everyone. 6 or 7 p.m. works best because school. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be during the school day or anything like that. I know that that's going to limit my viewership pretty poorly. And I also could do something on the weekend. My weekends tend to be back to normal, assuming that that happens exactly the way that we all hope it does. But the weekends for me, pretty much always I'm gigging in the evenings on Friday and Saturday. And so maybe even that Friday time for me wouldn't be the best. Usually my Friday night gigs are a little bit later, so I could do a 5 p.m. to 6 or something like that, but not necessarily every week. But Monday nights, again, unless I have a gig that night, should be fine. Sundays could work. Sundays that, that conflict and you want to prepare for the week and everything. So maybe we'll plan on this time, somewhat. I know I've been streaming more than, once a week, but I'd like to have a consistent time. So not that everyone's going to plan their life around my live stream or something, but it's one thing to you know, watch it or, you know, stumble into it, but it's a little different to, you know that it's happening. I think that might be helpful for more people. You will? Good. Let's see, maybe I'll play one of the other TMEA etudes. Since I'm sure no one is sick of them at this point. I'm sure everyone is just ready to hear more of them. Scrolling to 58. Everyone always wants me to play Fountains. I'm going to play 58 first. Maybe I'll play Fountains afterwards. Fountains is great. It's just like, for me, Fountains is one of those that, like, to play it well, I really need to just kind of, you know, focus in, and it's not maybe the best kind of live stream just thrown at me sort of thing. But I think part of these live streams are good because, you know, if you just watch my videos and things, you probably think I don't ever miss notes, and, you know, I'm human just like everybody else. But I also would like to not miss notes. Probably not the best example of playing it faster than I should, and then also playing pedal tones that you shouldn't do in your audition, but that's okay. Yeah, maybe now that I've played that, I'll play Fountain. Well, that actually might not be so bad, but I'm not going to do that. Can I play my phony maybe after Fountains? I feel like I should post vids on YouTube of just me playing random stuff and see how bad I am. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like to think more positively than that. We're all developing, myself included. You know, I think that's the important thing is just to be trying to get better. You know, not to think about, am I bad or am I good? Because both of those things cannot really be helpful to your development. You know, just say that I want to be better than I was yesterday. That's kind of how I try to think about things. But here's Fountains of Rome by request. Should I leave on the vocal mic and just destroy headphone users? I'm not going to do that. today I had an audition at school and I wanted to transfer to and got into the top group on bass and the top jazz ensemble on bass. Awesome. Definitely good news. 2 man, 10 out of 10. Thank you. Yeah, you asked the question earlier about, what was the hardest excerpt. That was not an easy one for me for sure. And there's still things I have to work on and polish. Maybe some of those things don't, maybe YouTube helps me by compressing the quality of the stream down far enough. But euphonium. But yeah, that's definitely one of those excerpts that always needs constant work. And it's like, once you get kind of the notes and stuff under your fingers, and it's like, oh yeah, and I also should try to make music with it. They perform at Carnegie Hall every year and Essential Ellington. That's awesome. My high school tried to do the Essential Ellington competition, and we never got through. Not that it's one of my big regrets in life, but it's definitely a really cool thing. And I've worked with some of the Lincoln Center guys, and they're all really nice, or at least they were nice when I met them. Because when I was at Northwestern, they have a connection with Lincoln Center, and a lot of the faculty is from Lincoln Center. So, but yeah, I'll play something on euphonium. Let's see here. You won in 2018. That's awesome. Or first place, you should say. Playing for 4 years and never seen that thing in your hand be used before. Oh, this wrist strap. Yeah, so it's designed. If you don't have this, you put a lot of strain on your wrist. Even just taking off like this, because I've had wrist problems in the past because of this. I can feel, it's not like super painful for me, but it doesn't feel great for me personally without the wrist strap. Because the euphonium it's not an ergonomic instrument. And even though it's not super, super heavy or anything, but the way that my hand kind of contorts when I hold it just isn't really conducive to, having a wrist that works forever. So, this wrist strap, it kind of helps because it puts the weight in a different part of your hand. And for me, it makes it really comfortable to play. Before I got it, I was having wrist problems. I couldn't bend my wrist all the way. Like if I went like this, it was extremely painful, and I couldn't go this far. It's probably about right here, and it would just start to really hurt. So now they're pretty much the same, and it took years of using this strap and, doing some wrist stretches and things like that. But part of it too is the bass trombone. It's not helpful either, and I actually don't use anything for bass trombone, but I can kind of get away with it just based off of how, I'm not usually sitting in a rehearsal playing bass trombone for 3 hours or something. Can I attempt to side read Harlequin or pantomime? I don't think I have either of those, but even if I did, I probably wouldn't. Those are, they're pieces that if I practice, I could play, but most of the things you hear me play on tuba, even if they're not perfect, it's probably something that I've played before. Generally for these things, I'm playing things that I've played before. I've not played Harlequin or pantomime. I haven't played a lot of the really kind of modern euphonium solos. There are a lot of solos to get to when you play all the low brass instruments, and those are just two that I haven't. Of course, I had to chip the last note. You're back. Welcome back, Brady. In high school, there was a tuba player at my school named Brady. We were really good friends. I assume you're not that Brady. Can you explain what the 6th and 7th valve does on the tuba? So, I mean, you could obviously just add as many valves as you want, but most of the time when you think there are 7 valves, there aren't actually 7 valves. Like with whose instrument is that? I think is it Alessandro Fossi's BNS tuba that looks like it has 7 valves, where it has 4 over here, and then it looks like there are 3 over there. And the third one on your left hand is actually a second valve tuning trigger, kind of does the same function as my second valve trigger. It just takes that out. So 7th valve, I would, I'm not going to make a claim saying it doesn't exist, but when you see it, it may not be real like you think it is. But yeah, so the 6th valve is usually kind of what we call a flat half step. That's kind of not a great name for a valve, because it won't always be a flat half step depending on how much tubing you're already going through. But essentially, it's a valve that's kind of in between first and second. So it's longer than your second valve, but not quite as long as your first valve. So it allows you to play. One, it doubles the amount of unique fingerings you have. So now you have 64 fingerings on a 6-valve tuba, and the second valve, or the 6th valve, I should say, that allows you to play like what should be like the open pedal with all 6 down, which can be kind of helpful, especially on an F tuba. Like in the Vaughan Williams, there's a big run that starts on a low F and goes to a G flat, which on all other 5-valve F tubas, it's a open to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on a 6-valve tuba, you have the option to play it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But yeah, you can use it for various things. It has very limited uses. None of my tubas have 6 valves. It's helpful, but I'm not opposed to having a 6-valve tuba, but you also have to realize that the more valves you have, the more twists and turns that you have in the instrument, and it may not actually make the instrument sound better or play better. So have you listened to the Seattle Opera Ring Cycle? Oh yeah, I think like most people, I got turned on to that by, I think in some video, Chris Olka talks about it, and yeah, it's very good. That would be cool. Yeah, though. Yeah. Can you play Sweden? I don't know what that is. Any thoughts on rotor valves versus Thayer valves, Thayer/axial flows on bass trombone? Yeah, I mean, again, all of that sort of stuff is really just based on personal preference. You may really like, this valve, and someone may say, but this valve is better, and it's that valve is better for them. Slash axial flows, those have less kind of resistance, and that kind of makes that makes some of it a little bit more free blowing in the low range. But some people kind of like that resistance because it's kind of something to. I think you just have to try them all, and there are different, other things too. There are the Shire's True Bores. There's like Rotaxes for like rotors, but a little bit different. There's like the Christian Lindbergh valve. There are all these different kind of valves that are all slightly different that sometimes can be helpful to try out too. For me on tenor, I'm pretty happy with having a Rotax. I've got to also have a large bore that has a Thayer. If I were, if I were playing bass trombone as my my only instrument, I'd probably have one that has Thayers or axial flows. This instrument's really great, but it's, the grass is always greener. That's part of it too. I don't think the low range is quite as free blowing as it is on like a modern Shires or Edwards. And part of that is the time period and these specific valves, but it's a good instrument nonetheless. Let's see. Oh, Sweden is the Minecraft theme. I couldn't even sing it to you. I'm showing my, I don't know if I'm showing my age or my out of touchness, but I've actually never played Minecraft. Favorite movie soundtrack? That's a good question. There are lots of good ones. I'm definitely a sucker for, Hans Zimmer and John Williams too. But I think I'm just gonna have to go Inception because the amount of Chimbosso on that, I feel like you can't beat that. And I think just like not just that, that's obviously kind of gimmicky, but the whole thing of just like bass. I don't think there are any trumpets on there, and it's just like all low brass and horns, and it's just really lush sort of sounds. Like you get these big horn riffs, da da da, those sorts of things. It's just kind of really nice. Is a travel tuba a good investment, like quality wise? Maybe. If you're like a pro in an orchestra, always on the move, and I would probably agree with that. There are times where it would be really great if I had one. My parents live about 14 hours away. My in-laws live about 14 hours away. So driving is not always the best option. Sometimes we have to fly, and I have a flight case for my tuba, and I could bring that, but that gets expensive, especially depending on the airline. So it can make things really complicated, and a travel tuba would solve that. And there's like that Alan Baer video where he talks about the tubas he has on tour, and his big tubas are underneath a bus or something, and they're big crates, and then he has his little travel tuba. He probably didn't pay for it, and also he could afford it if he wanted to, but it depends. If you're spending a few $1,000s on it, I might be a little hesitant, but it's definitely, definitely depends on your lifestyle. Let's say that you're, a high school student and you have divorced parents and you have to fly to see the parent that you don't live with all the time, and you can't bring the tuba, and, it's court mandated. So you have, you're going when you're supposed to go or whatever, and you have little control over the situation. Maybe it's a decent option. I think for most of us during this pandemic, it's not a good investment because you're probably home more often. But yeah, I think it's more of a lifestyle thing than a really good tuba question necessarily. It's not like you're going to play that instrument if you have a real, full-size instrument. And I don't think anyone is making that argument. I think the argument is that it's convenient. So I think you have to weigh, is that convenience worth the amount of money? Which, if you have just limitless money, of course it is. If you are moving around all the time, maybe it is. But as far as it like being a real instrument that you're going to use and it's going to make you money, that's how I look at buying instruments. How long is it going to take for me to make my money back? Am I going to be able to make my money back? That's a big part of it. So I kind of keep track of what they call in the business world the ROI, or return on investment. If I'm going to spend, $3,500 on this tuba, which is what I spent on it, obviously it's probably worth more in would cost more if someone bought it. But I would probably, I would want to make sure that I can get that money back in some way. And I have, but those are things that I think about. I wouldn't, it's hard for me to justify going out and buying something like a contrabass trombone or a chimbasso, because I probably won't, I probably won't, need really even have the ability to make money on those very much. How do you hit high notes easier? I'm talking about the highest of the high. Again, I think I answered these sorts of questions a couple of times, but a lot of it is just it's practice that has to be consistent, and it just has to be really calm practice that is done basically daily. So the highest of high notes, like really, really high notes, when I ask you, do you really need those notes? It's hard because, I think some people see me as someone who plays really high notes all the time, but I don't seek them out, and you ultimately, to be a good tuba player, it really has nothing to do with high notes. It's more, it's more like, yes, you do need it. I mean, maybe you do, but for me, we have to do our job well, which are fly across the room and imagine my air just right into that bullseye. That's the sort of air that I'm using as I get really high. And just, got to keep that air moving. Like maybe, taking a scale that you know really well, like let's say B flat major. And sorry, I did the wrong microphone. I'm sure that sounded terrible. But then I'll add a note to that. So things like that where you're just kind of, I always think about extending my middle range. Let's see. Do I know that the World Series was in Dallas? I did not know that. I used to be a big baseball fan. I was a Cardinals fan. I still am a Cardinals fan, but they're not in the World Series, so I care a little bit less. And just overall, I think that, not to go on a sports tangent, but I like more what the NBA did to keep the players safe than I feel like any other league in this country. So I'm kind of voting with my viewership right now as far as that's concerned. Let's see. What bass trombone mouthpiece do you play on? I play a 0 AL heavy top, and I've been thinking about switching to a 2 AL or 3 AL. Do you think I should? I mean, that's, thinking that you should is kind of an impossible question. The easy question to answer is, what do I play on? And my primary is Is it back? Okay. Yeah, I'll have to investigate this issue. Every other stream, as far as I know, unless, some of you that have been on all the streams or multiple streams, I don't think this has happened before, correct? This is a new problem as of today. We just had these two little situations with it. You got a great view of the forehead. Yeah, I've got a forehead. Yeah, so I don't know what our players, can use the 2 and I can't, but the 2 didn't really work for me. I don't know, I just kind of like something a little bit bigger than that. I sold that and then got the Heritage 0 because I liked that, and I can obviously get that mouthpiece back again, or buy a new one. But yeah, the Heritage 0's worked out well for me. I think a lot of people think it's too big. and I don't have an argument with them about it, but it works for me, or at least I think it works for me, I should say. Let's see. Go back to where we weren't talking about how bad the internet seems to be today. Roger Robo chromatics are good for high register building. Yeah, and that's kind of a similar thing to what I was just demonstrating. But yeah, I mean, so much of high range to me is just really doing consistent practice. I think there are a lot of people who want to get better at high range and aren't doing much about it. Your internet's bad, so it might be you. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is having Google, but I don't know. I'll try to investigate. I think I'll watch the stream and see. He did it again. Huh. The Dennis Wick makes and the smallest. I have both of those mouthpieces. I don't really use the largest. The largest is the 00. I guess I forgot that when I was saying all the mouthpieces that I had. Let's see. That's not it. Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to see the size, obviously, from this camera angle or anything, but this is the 00, which is really more of a contra mouthpiece, a contrabass trombone mouthpiece, and I got it to tinker around with on contrabass trombone. It might even be a little bit small for that, but yeah, I mean, as far as do you need a bigger mouthpiece, I know people who play bigger mouthpieces who happen to have bigger lips. There might be some truth to that, but I also, sometimes play a 12, and I don't know if my lips are particularly big or not. I think they're relatively average, but yeah, I don't know. Do you prefer the Dennis Wick Classic or Heritage? Oh, Brian Fincher entered the chat. We've got a celebrity. Yeah, so I use different ones for different purposes. I mean, you can see Heritage. Understand how angles work. Heritage, Classic series on basically everything else. I think those are my only two well, that's not true. That's my only two Heritage that I actually play. But House online at one time, and it kind of still fits me. I kind of think that the V is a little bit big, but I kind of like it if it looked like that all the time. But just like, I don't know, we get a lot of T-shirt. I don't want too much T-shirt. I'm sure everyone wanted to know my feelings on my V-neck sweater, so now you have them. Saw the North Texas video of Toccata and Fugue. Was that fun? Am I in that? That probably answers your question. I think I'm in that, right? We played Toccata and Fugue while I was in Wind Symphony, I'm pretty sure. I've done a lot of playing in bands. It kind of all runs together. I think, when we played Toccata and Fugue, if it is the recording that I'm thinking of, we definitely were not allowed to have that much fun. We were told not to play too loudly, which is a little bit of a drag, because to me it's like we're the big pedals at the end. Like we should be stomping on those pedals. But I think it was tasteful what I wanted to do or what we wanted to do as a section. But we were kind of told otherwise, which is sometimes what happens when the director plays clarinet. Let's see. What classic do you play on in tuba? You play 1XL and love we're one and the same. I also play a 1XL as my main C tuba mouthpiece. On F2, I play a 2L, and I also have a 2XL that I sometimes use, but I don't use it too much. Hope Brian's still here to get all the Brian love, but he might not be here. But yeah, Brian's a great lead trumpet player. He's a great all-around trumpet player, but he's a really good lead trumpet player. Plays in the Houston Jazz Orchestra and teaches at Sam Houston. Runs one of their big bands there. But he's a great player. I don't know how much stuff he has on YouTube, but he's very active on Instagram, and he does a lot of the music on the screen. So if you're interested in high notes on trumpet or just all things trumpet, yeah, keep it coming. Yeah, so yeah, definitely check out Brian's stuff on Instagram, stuff with the Houston Jazz Orchestra. But I didn't know if that was on your channel or theirs or what have you. Let's see. Do you know if Dennis Wick makes a bigger mouthpiece than the One XL? To my knowledge, they don't mass produce one bigger. Which the One XL, like, that sounds like One XL. That's huge, and it's big, but it's not like hilarious. It's sometimes kind of hard to grow. With one of my All-State videos that I did for last year, it was like, I have like 90,000 views on it, and the highest one that I have so far is like 14, I think, thousand. So, which I know hasn't as much time, but even in this time, it hasn't done as well. You guys are the Mayflower. I have a pair of One XL and a Mike Finn 3B. Those are all good mouthpieces. The Parentucci's never really worked for me. I have so many and just sound like a million. Excuse me, sound like $1 million. When I play the Parentucci mouthpieces, I don't sound like $1 million. I don't play them, but I like my One XL. I'm really happy that maybe 3 years ago now I switched to it, and I'm kind of no looking back. I haven't played a Mike Finn mouthpiece in years, though. I remember good things, but I don't really remember much. You have a question. I think you're going to buy a Vincent Bach K model number. Is not a thing. Sometimes they have easier names to remember. K3357. Oh, weird. That doesn't have another name? Oh, that's the 7. That's a heavy tone 7. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've messed around too much with the Bach mouthpieces, but yeah, it's a Megatone 7. Yeah, it's probably a good mouthpiece. I just don't really know it. Let's see. You got a Plord or something. I'm sure there are more efficient ways. I usually play on the Mike Finn and the Dennis Wick. Yeah, I mean, those are definitely good mouthpieces. A lot of people are me, or it's a good mouthpiece for me. And that's really all that I can speak on. And sometimes I can say, all of them sounded good on it, but it may not be quite that simple. Let's see. We share with everyone, yeah, I mean, I have no problem with you guys spamming all of your email contacts, all of your Instagram people and everything. I will have no complaints. Mike Finn is mainly a marching to mouthpiece, especially if you're cranking, because it's so heavy and deep. Oh, it's a K. It's K something. Yeah, that popped up. Maybe that's not the right number or something, but it came up as a mouthpiece. You play Helleberg right now. Helleberg's a great mouthpiece. To me, I was talking, you're bad at high range on that mouthpiece. If you're good at low range, you're good at low range with that mouthpiece. Those sorts of things. It doesn't give you a false sense of reality in a negative or a positive way. But yeah, email whoever you can. I'll take it. You're the second person to ask about my cool finish on my euphonium. It's a silver-plated euphonium that is oxidized beyond belief. It's funny that everyone says that it looks cool. I think part of it is that it's a pretty thin lacquer, brass undertones through it at certain points. Do you just not? Yeah, I just don't polish it. I polished it one time, so yeah, it is what it is. The reason why I don't doing anything wrong, but you polish yours daily. Yeah, it's gonna eat through the plating if it's silver or the lacquer. But it's not a terrible thing either. But yeah, I don't really care too much about the looks of it. I just kind of leave it be. I've not polished mine since who knows when, but then again, you play a school instrument. Yeah, I mean, they don't need to be polished. I mean, for marching band shows and things like that, I mean, a lot of band programs require things to be polished, and that's fine. But it's really purely an aesthetic thing, and it's actually going to remove some of the, it's a very thin layer of the silver plating that you're removing, but you are removing some of the plating every time you polish it. But yeah, I think I'm going to get off here. I'm going to investigate some of those internet issues that we were having. Coproj 33. I'm thinking I'm already calling it a night. Maybe next time. Nicholas, remind me next time that you're on here, and I will try to play Coproj 33. I don't remember which one that is, but I think I played it. But yeah, good night. Hope that everyone had a good stream. Thanks for everyone for watching. Definitely means a lot for me. Means a lot to me. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure that you're subscribed. If you really like these live streams, I think the easiest way to make sure that you don't miss them is by clicking that bell icon. But really, that's the best way to do it. So, but yeah, you're welcome for live streaming, and I hope to do more of these and keep this kind of trend going. Can't promise it'll be this consistent, but it's been fun, and I have the time to do it right now. So, but cool. All right, well, I'll see everyone next time.